everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. We are excited today to have a little bonus episode for you. We love talking rom-coms, and that's what we're going to do today. We are talking underrated rom-coms, and I can't think of anybody better to have with me to do this than my very good friend Jennifer Chandler's here.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
That's good. Yes, we both love rom-coms. That's
Yes.
part of how we
Maybe.
bonded.
For sure.
Yes. And so what we thought to record a bonus episode that we could have ready to go when things are getting busy or crazy. I thought it would be fun to do a little episode where we are talking about underrated rom-coms. And what to you, I know it's a word thrown about a lot, but what to you means underrated? What do you interpret that as?
Well, I mean, immediately what comes to mind is underdog,
Right.
something scrappy and underestimated and then not thought much of. So as far as underrated rom-coms, it's just something that is kind of maybe a diamond in the rough, like something that not many people have seen or just haven't been exposed to. Something that's hiding on your best friend's shelf that they're madly in love with and you've just for some reason never heard of it.
It's kind of like with overrated, it's not necessarily like overrated. It's not necessarily something that's bad. It's just something that you think it's maybe more praise than it deserves. In this case, it's not like we're saying these movies are masterpieces. We're saying that they don't get the praise that they do deserve.
Yes. Or they're just overlooked.
Maybe they are masterpieces.
They're the ones that don't immediately come to mind when you think of pulling a rom-com to watch.
And what do you think makes for a great rom-com?
Put me on the spot, man.
I know.
I love character arcs, I guess, if I have to pick one thing. I before we started recording, we were talking about just people finding something of value in themselves and not just in finding another person. And so I really like seeing that in rom-coms and some sort of, redemption story maybe, or for sure just some sort of growth in the character. And then I like, I love ensembles, love a good strong ensemble, good strong communities. So, I mean, I could nitpick all the little different pieces, but I think if I had to pick, those would probably be the two. Of course, good chemistry. Let's do three.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I mean, it's go together.
Yeah, it's no big surprise that I love rom-coms, given that I host a Hallmark podcast. But the key, I think, the most important element for me is chemistry. It helps so much if you feel it can have a ridiculous plot, and many rom-coms do. But if I'm feeling the couple and they have that chemistry, it can make such a difference.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
Super, super agreed.
Yeah. And I also think that the witty banter is huge.
Yes.
Because it just makes it funny and enjoyable. And I think that's what makes Nora Ephron the best there ever was, just because her witty banter. Because she was also an essay writer, and she would write her books of essays are so good. And she has one in particular.
Looking that up right now.
Yeah, she has one in my favorite of her books of essays is one of that's called "I Feel Bad About My Neck."
Okay.
Yes, and where she's talking the essay from the title is she is talking about getting old and her skin, and I know it's very truthful and charming. And she also has one on parenting that is so good that you definitely have to read. You'll love it. And I think that's what she managed to do, is like work in these little essays into her scripts. And so, like, for instance, when Joe is going in, You've Got Mail is going to Starbucks, and he talks about how it's the most empowering experience that and you get a defining sense of
People who
self
can't make
from your
decisions get to make 5 in a
yeah,
row.
that's right.
Yeah.
And so she would find a way of like working these little kind of diatribes, these little sort of mini essays into her scripts. And so when you're watching, you're like, oh yeah, like this isn't one of hers, but one I love. And I almost thought about picking it for underrated is he's just not that into you. And
Mhm.
I don't think all of the plot lines work, but I think the ones that do work I really like. And I particularly love the whole section with Drew Barrymore where she's talking about technology, and she's like it used to be one phone line that you call and leave a message, and now you have to go around being rejected by 5 different technologies.
I love her.
And there's that whole essay is so funny, and I think that that's when the banter can really work, when you get like these sort of little insights into. I
Mhm.
mean, Woody Allen started kind of he was really famous for doing this in movies like Annie Hall or Manhattan or movies like that, where you kind of go on these little diatribes commenting about life. And I love that kind of thing. I think it's so good.
Yeah. It
Mhm.
makes it more real. I don't
Yeah.
know. It makes me feel like it's more like a friend group that I
Mhm.
would like real life people, real life conversations
Yeah.
than something super scripted.
That's a good point too. That one of my favorite parts of Notting Hill
Mhm.
is the whole scene for the at the birthday party
Mhm.
for his sister. When
Mhm.
they're just talking about eating brownies and and life and everything. That feels so real to me. Of just like a group of people just sort of chatting, and I don't know. I love that whole scene.
This is so unrelated, but it just tied it all together with what you're talking about. I just had this flashback of that scene in um, what is it? Oh no, uh, Never Been Kissed. When she eats
Hmm.
the brownies at the party,
Oh
and then she's
yeah.
on the phone with her brother, and then she's like, "Oh my gosh, somebody ate my
Yes,
pie."
I love that whole scene.
That is my favorite. And
Eat the whole
you just talked
pie.
about Drew Barrymore. You just talked about brownies, so that scene just popped into my
Yeah,
head, and I started laughing.
I
Oh,
love that scene. Eat the whole pie.
like who broke in and ate your pie? You ate your pie.
And on the flip side, that because some people will watch romantic comedies and be like, they're all the same. I don't understand why you like this one and you don't like this one. The
Mhm.
thing of it is that when they don't have that chemistry, and when they because a lot of scripts try to do the opposites attract kind
Yeah,
of Pride and Prejudice thing. And
yeah.
the thing about that is that people don't understand about Pride and Prejudice is that Lizzie and Darcy don't like each other, but they're both shown to be extremely likable characters and well loved, beloved by the other
Mhm,
people in their lives throughout the story. So
mhm,
you are never given really that much of a reason to dislike either character.
mhm.
And then certainly by the end you're pulling for both of them and you want them to like each other. Whereas so often in the bad romantic comedies is we dislike both of the characters, they don't like each other and you don't care because they're the worst.
Yes, yes.
And I think a lot personally, I think a lot of those sort of Matthew McConaughey movies from like he had a couple good ones, like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and
Mhm.
but then there was a string that were really bad, in my opinion.
I feel like
Like
Failure
I
to Launch is one that I watch a
oh
lot, but is not one of the
yeah,
good ones. Like
no,
for some
I
there's
hate that
parts of
one.
it that there's parts of it I love. I love
Uh-huh.
Zoe Deschanel in There with the Mockingbird.
With the
That
bird.
whole thing just cracks me
Yeah.
up. But with Sarah Jessica
Ugh,
Parker
the
and
two
Matthew
of them.
McConaughey, they just didn't seem to work, which is weird
No.
because the other day I just read something that said that he used to have a crush on her or something, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that did not come through
No.
in that movie.
Yeah.
That was a weird one.
For me, a really terrible one is What Happens in Vegas. That one is
Oh
really
no, I love that one.
no. That one's so bad. I hate it.
I love that movie. Unabashedly, that's one of my that would be my underrated rom-com
Uh-oh.
that
Did I
would
take
be
one
on
off
my
your
shelf.
list?
No, you didn't. You just, it's definitely not on your list, but
No, it's not.
as Sean says, my list isn't the right list. It's just
That's
my
right.
list.
Yeah,
So,
I
no,
just
that's just, I love that one. I don't
they're
know
too
why.
miserable to each other. I have a harder time getting into these like sort of what's his name? I always forget his name. The director that did a bunch of like the Seth Rogen, like
Oh
Knocked
no, I'm
Up
not.
and Trainwrecked and
Oh, I don't know. I'm
what's
terrible
his
at that stuff.
name?
I'm
I
sorry. You
can't
can
think of
Google
it.
it.
Uh, uh, but a lot of those kind of really kind of
Judd Apatow.
yeah, Judd Apatow. Judd Apatow, those kinds of movies are not my favorite. I don't know,
And that's fair.
it's
That's
not
fair.
my
And
style.
there's times too when some things are more your thing or my thing.
Mhm.
There are
Sure.
phases of life where I watch a movie and I'm like, man, that movie's the best. And then I watch it again. I was like, what? That was garbage.
Yeah,
Why did I think I liked that? So, there's
that's
phases for
true.
everything. But last time I watched that one, I really liked it.
Which one?
What happens in Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know. So maybe
That's
there will be a time that I watch it and it doesn't make the cut, but for now it's still on my shelf.
Yeah, so I think that it's just careful. You have to be careful about making the characters likable even if they don't like each other. And you
Hmm.
also have to make that switch for them liking each other at kind of the right point because if you wait too long, then it doesn't work. And but you have to kind of make the conflict somewhat believable.
Yeah,
And it's
one of my underrated rom-coms that isn't on our list, Sean would make that argument for. The reason he doesn't like it is he doesn't think the main
which one?
characters are Alex and Emma
Oh yeah.
with Luke
Yeah, so
Wilson and Kate Hudson.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I
it's
agree with
got
Sean
Nora
on that
Jones
one.
music. I cannot get over the dialogue in that movie. It kills me every time. I can't remember if
Yeah.
I don't think I can even find it fast enough. But he's like, when did forehead to the the back of your hand to the forehead become medically reliable? Like, there's just so much banter in there that
Yeah.
I personally enjoy, but I have
Yeah.
to watch that one by myself. Sean won't watch it. That is a no fly zone
Yeah.
for both of us to watch.
Well, as we're talking about our official picks, our 5 picks,
Yes.
and I tried to pick ones that maybe I hadn't talked about that much the on the podcast. I feel like I've talked about I debated, I almost put Sing Street. I love Sing Street.
Mhm.
I I feel like I've talked about that a lot, so I didn't pick that one. Let us know if you're listening. Let us know what you would pick, what your top 5. And I did ask on Twitter. We'll talk about that at the end, but I got tons of responses.
I bet you
It
did.
was huge.
Could be a series in and of itself.
Yes, it really could. So let's get started. I'll talk about my first pick, and this is what kind of got me thinking about this topic. Actually, I was thinking about this movie, and it's called What If. And this movie came out in 2013. It's actually has in Great Britain. It's called The F Word.
Hmm.
Scandal. But this is a movie starring Daniel Radcliffe and Zoe Kazan and Megan Park from Hallmark fame and Adam Driver. And it's basically a friends to lovers trope story about these two friends who are it's like a platonic friendship. They see through a bunch of relationships, but truly they're kind of meant to be together, kind of in the end. Uh, but it, but are you gonna risk spoiling the friendship in order for to test out this relationship? And Adam Driver plays Daniel Radcliffe's married best friend, BFF. He is absolutely hilarious in the movie. And it's a charming, really well done. I'm gonna use that word a lot in this podcast, but it is a charming movie, and I think it's underrated. I think it's one that I never hear talked about, that people but it's got a great cast, and I think Mackenzie Davis is in it. Uh so yeah, have you seen this?
I had not until you put it on the list, and then I watched it, and
Oh, you
I
watched it
love
today?
it. Yes, I did.
Yes.
I loved it. I need to watch it again when I'm not like pausing as the little people in my life walk through the living room, because that was not not a family friendly movie.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Given its original title, I mean, obviously, but
Right.
it was delightful. It was so unexpected. I maybe it helped that I don't think I've even heard of it before.
Right?
It
See,
was,
that's why
yeah,
it's
this is
totally
why
underrated.
it's
Yeah.
completely merited to be on the list. I had a blast. I was full on, legitimately, not just uh, uh
Yeah.
facetiously. I can't think of the right word. I
Yeah.
was rolling on the floor.
Yeah.
Like my kids were like, "Mom, are you okay?" And I'm dying laughing. I had a
And Adam
blast.
Driver, he is so funny. I mean,
Well, and who's the guy? I'm gonna butcher his name. Raph Spall.
uh-huh. Oh
He
yeah,
played
yeah.
Ben. He was so like a
He
dark
was
horse. I don't know
yeah.
what to call it. Like, he was so bland in some ways, but he delivered all of his stuff so perfectly, and he was just the exact right kind of foil in the movie. And I just thought he was hysterical without actually being funny. And then the
Yeah.
sister, Daniel Radcliffe's sister, was really funny, even though she only had a few scenes. I mean,
Mhm.
it was an ensemble, like we were talking about earlier. So big points for me because it was an ensemble. They had fantastic chemistry,
Mhm.
unbelievable banter. The banter going back and forth was just the best. And
Mhm.
then just hilarious, not quite slapstick, but just situational environmental comedy that had me losing it. It was
Yeah.
so funny.
And I would watch a whole movie about Adam Driver and Mackenzie Davis's character, their
Yes.
relationship. They were so
Yeah.
funny.
They were really funny. Although I admit I would probably watch it too, but I appreciated kind of the distance between. I think an entire movie of just them would overwhelm me a little bit. They were big, 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 big
Big character.
characters.
Yes, they were.
So
Yeah.
it was so good. And I liked how it was, a rom-com, and there was light and funny, and then there was Adam Driver and his little plot with their big characters that made it just ridiculous. But then there were some really real components, where they called each other out on stuff, and I was like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, this isn't, all fluffy. It's got some content.
Yeah.
So that was really nice.
Which one would you prefer, Friends to Lovers, like this kind of a story, or Opposites Attract?
I don't know. I think to cop out, I guess it depends on
Mhm.
the characters. Like, it's
Yeah.
just, there's all sorts I could think of, and I'm really bad at coming up with stuff on the spot, but
This
I
on
would
one hand
probably go ahead.
on one hand no, I just on one hand, Friends to Lovers, it it makes me so frustrated because I'm like, I could picture myself being in that being in that spot. But but on the other hand, it's like I kind of like it because I can kind of escape to that spot too, you know?
Yeah, I think most of the time, and I felt like this movie handled it really well. I think it creates unrealistic expectations, and there's some blurred lines, and it just gets really kind of
Yeah.
messy when you make that jump, which is why it's interesting. So I think
Yeah.
I probably would pick Opposites Attract just generically because there's a little less stress usually.
Yeah, I love
But
Friends to Lovers. I love Opposites Attract. I love the Second Chance Romance. Like they
mhm,
dated in high school, and now
yeah.
we're back to.
Yeah, well, I think the best thing about Friends to Lovers is that they've got that established friendship.
Mm,
I think one thing, I don't know if it's a spoiler, I don't think so, but that makes this one in particular so kind of painful, although obviously I still like it, is that he starts out in that place,
yeah,
and then just spends the whole time kind of like, well, if friendship is all I can get, I will take it.
right.
And that's kind of a hard place to sit forever, and is a
Hmm.
little painful to watch someone you like go through. So,
It's kind of like When Harry Met Sally in a way,
mm,
but a little bit more modern. It's
yeah,
asking those same questions. Can men and women be
just be
friends?
friends. Right.
And according to movies, no.
No.
They can't.
Apparently not. I've heard that as well.
All right. Well, what is your first pick?
So I think ironically, first on my list is going to be Isn't It Romantic? And I say ironically because it's almost like a spoof on,
Yeah, it's
on
parody.
rom-coms. Yeah.
Mm.
I remember seeing the previews for it, and I was never really sure. You see them and you kind of get excited, and it could be the
Mm-hmm.
best thing. It could be the worst thing. It could be just, why did I waste 2 hours of my life watching that? And I just thought it was delightful. I think that's going to be my word that I use a lot during this podcast is delightful. You can say charming and I can say delightful. But it was just, unexpected. I think in a lot of ways it's similar to the reasons that I liked Enchanted, where it was just a parody on the genre and it just pulled in all of the tropes and things that you love about it. But it wasn't spiteful.
No.
It didn't mercilessly mock people who love that kind of thing. And I think they found that line to where they acknowledged the silliness of it, but at the same time still respected people that enjoy it.
I think this movie is particularly funny for those of us that are in the kind of rom-com fandoms, like particularly Hallmarkies, because I don't know, just everything from the production design to her outfits to everything. There are so many Easter eggs in this movie that are, and I think Liam Hemsworth is so funny in the movie.
He does great.
Hilarious.
He does really great. He was a perfect pick and someone I wasn't expecting. I wouldn't have cast him in that role personally, but he was perfect for it, having seen it now.
Oh, so good. And I really liked I love Adam Devine and Rebel Wilson together because they already had great chemistry, obviously, in Pitch Perfect, and they get to add that on here. And I don't know, just everything from like all of the fake flowers around everything and like stuff like that.
Well, and the operator, the emergency operator. Wait, you're calling me to say that there's more stuff in your apartment and it's nicer? And she just hangs up on her because
and her dog's better.
Yes. Her dog behaves and actually does tricks, and it was just really nice. It was unexpected and it was sweet, and while it kind of was predictable,
it was funny. That was its main job, is to be funny, and it totally was.
For sure. And even though it kind of was predictable, when the first time you watch it, at least for me, I enjoyed it more the second time I watched it, because the whole first time I was like, what's going to happen? Are they going to be like real spiteful? Are they going to just completely abandon the genre? And like, what are they going to do? So I was pleased with how they handled it.
Yeah, it was a really good one. That's a good choice.
That's fun to rewatch too.
Yeah, I know. I saw it 3 times in theater. That was back when
the
movie. Yeah.
You really liked it.
I did. It was back when MoviePass was a thing, and so I just went and saw it a bunch of times. I think it was the tail end of that, but anyway, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very funny. All right. Well, my next choice is something that I think maybe it's skirts the line of being a romantic comedy, because it also is a drama in a lot of ways, but it's so good. It's called Juliet Naked, and people might hear that and think, oh, that sounds scandalous. It's not scandalous. It is an R-rated film, but that's mainly for language. It's it's not scandalous. It's about a woman who is the long-suffering girlfriend of this man who runs this fandom for this rocker who
Chris O'Dowd. I love him.
Yeah, he runs this fan group, chat room, everything for this rocker who hasn't made an album in a long time. And the last album that he made, everybody considers it perfect. It's called Juliet Naked is the name of the album. So I think they hurt themselves a little bit with the title of this.
Yeah, movie. I totally agree.
But she ends up, she finally is so frustrated. One day she sends an email with her review of his his music, and
she
uh,
comments in his forum. She
yeah,
gets in the forum and
yeah.
just goes off.
And he responds, the singer responds to
Hmm.
Ethan Hawke, and they start chatting back and forth. He ends up coming to London for a thing and to visit his daughter, and they end up meeting. And of course, Chris O'Dowd's character is freaking out about it. And what I think that this movie does so well is the script, based on a Nick Hornby novel, is so well done in keeping characters, because Chris O'Dowd's character is actually kind of a jerk.
Yep,
I
for
mean, he
sure.
does not treat her the way that she deserves
No,
to be treated,
not at all.
but they keep the humanity of the character. They don't excuse his behavior, but they keep the humanity of the character. And he has a moment at the end where he talks about that, how much this album really mattered to him, and it doesn't really matter if it mattered to Ethan Hawke's character. It made a difference in his life, and he has a really powerful scene. And it's kind of amazing that that character, with all that he's done to our lead character, earns
Hmm.
that moment, and you feel
Hmm.
it. And I thought that's such a good example of how good the writing is in this movie. And I just felt like it was so underrated. Nobody talked about it, nobody saw it hardly at all. And I, in 2018, was one of my favorites of that year. And it's funny, it's insightful, it has a lot to say about fandom and fan culture, and it is also a romance, but it's not like a huge romance, so it's a little bit of a stretch, but I really love it.
I love it too. And this is embarrassing for myself because it shows how bad I was at technology. But it's the only movie I have in my iTunes, my own personal iTunes, because I
Uh-huh.
didn't know what I was doing and I put it in the wrong place. So I'm always fine with it though because I can access it whenever I want, very easily. Like,
Yes.
oh my word! I was like, Sean, I put it in the
Yeah.
wrong
And
folder.
I really like Ethan Hawke's character too, because
Yes.
it would have been easy to also make him just kind of a jerk, but like
Yes.
his relationship with his daughter, and then he also has the new child, the this uh his new child that comes with him on the trip,
Hmm.
and he's trying to make things better.
It's
Uh
a second chance for him at
yeah,
being a
second
father.
chance, and
Hmm. Or
it's
third.
yeah.
Fourth. He's
Uh,
had a few. It's
yeah,
his new
and
beginning.
Chris O'Dowd, like you said, so good. Rose Byrne, Ethan Hawke. It's just a good, really good movie.
Well, and I think, being as familiar as we are with fandoms, I think it was interesting, the balance to strike between, I can only imagine people who are actually in, let's say, Harry Potter,
Mm-hmm.
and don't know the number of trivia, the massive amount of fan fiction and trivia and just anything that people just absorb from the
Yeah,
movies. And it's just interesting to see how art,
yeah,
whatever its form, can impact somebody. Like you said with Chris O'Dowd's little speech on, it doesn't matter what it was meant to be or what it meant to the original artist. It meant something to me personally,
yeah,
and that's why I value it. And so I thought that was a really neat little kind of takeaway, especially given
yeah.
how
It would
many
be
fandoms
yeah,
I like.
and it would be really easy for this to be a really cynical movie
Yes.
about someone getting lost in fandom, but it's actually kind of a defense in a way of just of your passions, of what you love in life. And that Rose Byrne character, of her, just she just kind of let things happen. She didn't
Hmm.
really like fight for what she wanted in life, and so she kind of learns that through the end of the movie. And it's great.
Yeah, I've been burned though. I have to admit, I recommended that to my mother, and she was
Uh-oh.
like, "Why did you think I would?" I was like,
She didn't like it, huh?
sorry, no, she did not. It was it was a hard sell already with the title, so I felt bad that I misread her so
uh
badly. But
it is an
I
R-rated
really liked
film,
it. That's
so
true.
if it's not, if
Well, it's
you
hard to prepare
uh,
someone for that as well. How do
yeah,
you really explain what you're getting into? Especially
right.
with the title. Hey, mom, go watch this movie. What? I just trust me. So,
All right, what's your next pick?
my next pick is very much skirting the line. You and I talked about it already as far as it's not really a comedy, but I'm putting it in there anyway because it's super underrated in my opinion. The Last 5 Years with
Yes.
Anna Kendrick and Jeremy Jordan. And it's like Sean's gonna kill me for saying this. It's like the Memento of rom-coms.
Yeah.
It's
So,
so stylistically interesting.
yeah.
It starts from her perspective at the beginning, no, at the end of their
And yeah.
relationship, and then it staggers scenes with his perspective. And
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the movie, you're at the beginning of the relationship with her and the end of the relationship with him. And in the middle, they pass
Mm-hmm.
like their wedding, I
Yeah.
think, is the central thing. But it's, of course, I'm a huge Anna Kendrick fangirl. Just, it's
Mm-hmm.
embarrassing how much I love her. But it's just such a beautiful movie, and it's
Yeah.
just kind of real, and it's not, doesn't hold anything back.
I love this Broadway musical, first of all. So good. And I kind of wondered if it would be something that you could make into a movie just because of its
Mm,
style. But they do a great job. And I agree. I think this is way underrated. I think that Jeremy Jordan is so great. I love
so
him
great.
so much.
I saw him on Supergirl, and I was like, wait, that's the what?
He's also been in some Hallmark movies.
Yeah.
So he's a Hall star, and they have pretty good chemistry, I'd say. And he's very
Mm-hmm.
charming in it, and also a scoundrel at times.
Mm,
Uh, but uh,
mm.
but yeah, I mean her I understand, even though you don't approve of his decisions, I
Mm-hmm.
understand kind of why he does what he does, because she is so needy as a character, and that affects their relationship. Not that you're blaming her for his bad decisions, but you at least kind of understand them a little bit.
Yeah, I think they just, I mean, kind of typical. I don't want to say if it's typical
Yeah.
breakup movie, but they both had really big glaring weaknesses
Yeah.
and issues. Like he was just desperate to date somebody that wasn't Jewish, and then she was just needy, and they both found in the moment what they
Hmm.
were looking for in each other and overlooked a bunch of other things. And at the end of the day, their problems ended up being bigger than what they brought to the table.
Yeah.
But it's just, I love the perspective. Like I said, it's just really interesting. I love the music. I
Hmm.
used to sing it around the house. Not that I can really sing, but my son, when he was very young, told me to stop because it was making him sad. The songs were sad. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
I
And
love the song
also,
so much too. I'm
they're
with you.
amazing.
Yeah.
I listen to it a lot. And I do want to say I haven't seen the Broadway play, and I know that there are diehard fans of the Broadway play who hate the movie. So I can understand your perspective if
Yeah.
you're coming from that, but I haven't seen the play, and just being introduced to the concept was so exciting.
I thought
I
they did
love
a
it.
great job. Yeah,
I,
I'm with you. It's a good choice. All right. My next choice is a throwback, and it's called Some Kind of Wonderful. And you hear a lot of praise, of course, John Hughes films like The Breakfast Club and Ferris Bueller's Day Off and 16 Candles and all these movies. But you hardly ever hear about Some Kind of Wonderful. And this is one that he wrote, didn't direct. But I think it's one of his best scripts. And what I think's very impressive about it is that the characters aren't just sort of the archetypes that we usually see in high school comedies, high school, these types of movies. And basically, you have the lead character is named Keith, played by Eric Stoltz, and his best friend is kind of a tomboyish, I guess, character named Watts, played by Mary Stuart Masterson. She's kind of like tough talker
she's a
and
drummer.
drummer, yeah,
Yeah.
and uh and he has this crush on this girl named Amanda, played by Leah Thompson. There's also hilarious guy named Hardy Hardy Jens, who's like the bully of the school, I guess. Anyway, and what I think is really cool is that not only do you have Keith as a good character where he's trying to live his dreams and go to art school. He doesn't want, or become an artist, doesn't want to follow the path that his father wants him to. Uh, but you also have Watts as a really good character, and they don't make Amanda a mean girl. Like, she
Mm-hmm.
actually has an arc. You understand where she's coming from. You feel for her character, and I just think that that's very rare in this type. Like, usually she would be the bad girl, kind of mean, because obviously you're rooting for Watts. And it
Mm-hmm.
has one of the great kisses in movies, in my opinion. It is so good.
Although it
The
should have
pra-
ended there. The whole rest of it should have just stopped. Like, that should have been
the
that's
practice
the end.
kiss is
Yep,
so
that's it. It's
good.
done. There's no going back. You can't. Why even try with anything else? Like,
Yeah.
just stop.
So you watched this today. What did you think?
I did. I thought it was really good. I'm actually
Yeah.
a huge Leah Thompson fan. I love her in Jaws 3.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Which is, again, my shame on display, but whatever. So it was fun to see her. It's like watching that movie was like, oh, there's that guy from that thing. Oh, there's that girl from that thing. Like,
Yeah.
there's just so many people in it that you know from something else.
Candace Cameron Bure
Yes.
is in
Yes.
it.
Very tiny. Very little.
Yep.
Were they filming Full House at that point?
No, I don't think so. This was 1987. So
Yeah,
I
she
don't
was
think that.
super cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was I like 80s movies, so it was fun to see that. I had a little bit of a struggle with the immediacy of the changes. Like, like, oh, I'm going after you. Oh, no, just kidding. I'm switching over. Like, okay, take some time.
Yeah.
But again, my biggest note would just be end after the practice kiss. That was not a practice kiss. That was the kiss.
It was so good. That kiss.
Yes.
It's so good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It looks like Full House started in 1987. So this was right around the same time.
Before that.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So I just think that it deserves more love than it gets. I think it's as good, if not better, than Breakfast Club and all those movies, personally. So.
Well, I think it does a good job of balancing, like you were saying, kind of the perspective of all the characters. And it wasn't just an archetype of everybody. Like, the dad really wanted his son to go to college. And it wasn't just because he was being overbearing. It was because he wanted his son to achieve more than he had achieved.
Yeah.
And so you knew where he was coming from and why he was pushing for it. But then again, you understood why the son didn't want that and wanted something else. And so I just thought it was really well balanced. Everybody, you kind of understood. And one of the, I like the sister, her little story arc where she's kind of rude and just thought he was the worst to, by the end of it, she came around and she was protective and a little bit sweeter. So it was really good. I enjoyed it.
We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
What's your next pick?
My next pick is Penelope.
Yeah.
With, what's her face? Christina Ricci? Is that right? Richie?
Yeah, Christina Ricci. And it has Reese Witherspoon in it, too.
Yes, it does. It has Reese Witherspoon
and James
McAvoy. This is one of my favorites. I don't even remember how I came across it. I feel like it was an accident. And then I watched it and I was like, why? Why have I not seen this before? Why aren't people talking about it? The wardrobe is exceptional. All of the design is exceptional. Oh, Catherine O'Hara. She's in it too. And she's great. So
Yeah,
everybody
it does
who's,
have a really good cast.
big
Richard E.
fans of Schitt's
Grant,
Creek would enjoy it.
Peter Dinklage is in it.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's been a minute since I've rewatched it, but it's just fun. I like the way that it's set up. I like the way that it's filmed. Again, I love the costumes.
Yeah,
I love
and
the story about, beauty being from within.
yeah,
And
it's about a girl who has a pig nose.
yes, oh yes, sorry, that's kind of a big part. Yeah, there's a curse on her family, and so the next girl born in her family is going to have a pig nose, and they can't have it surgically removed. And
Yeah,
the curse can only be broken when she finds true love with one who will accept her as one of their own.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
it's a great ensemble movie. There we go again with my
mm-hmm.
ensembles, but it's just really fun. And
It's a cute one. It's very good. All right. Well, my next pick is also has it's romance, but it's also dramedy, I guess. And it's Stranger Than Fiction. I love this movie. It stars Will Ferrell, and if you think, "Oh, I don't like Will Ferrell," give it a shot. It's not his like typical insanity,
no,
like,
it really isn't.
Talladega Nights or something. No, this this is about this man. He has everything ordered, structured in his life, and one day he starts to hear a voice in his head narrating everything he does. And he can't get it out of his mind. And the voice that he's hearing is Emma Thompson, who is a writer who has writer's block and is trying to figure out a way to kill off the character in her new novel, because that's her thing. She always kills off the character, but she happens to be writing a story about Harold Crick, the IRS agent who is actually Will Ferrell in real life in his character. And so she's about to kill off a real person. Anyway, and it's such a fun movie. I love it. I love the interaction between Dustin Hoffman and Will Ferrell, as because he's a literature professor. So he
Oh
thinks
yeah.
that since the person is narrating a story, that maybe a literature professor will be able to help figure out the end of the story. And then you also have Queen Latifah in it, and she plays the assistant to Emma Thompson's character. And then also you have Maggie Gyllenhaal. This is where the rom-com part of it comes in, who's this kind of cranky anarchist baker who he starts to audit. And the cutest scene, I love it in the movie when he brings her flowers, and not flowers like we know, like flowers like for baking. So he's got like almond flour, and it's so cute.
Yes, that was very cute.
I've got all your flowers here. And, oh, it's adorable. And then also just like really sweet moments where he becomes a better friend through this with his friend Dave, who's played by Tony Hale from Arrested Development. He's in there. Um, he just starts to appreciate all the different little things in life more from once he realizes that his story it, he's hearing his story, and he realizes, oh, my story isn't a good story, and
Yeah.
how that makes him think. And I think that's something that is very powerful to think about, like, what story are we telling, and would we want to read it if it was a book?
Well,
Like,
and
would we
if
want to
you
read
were
our
close to
story?
the end of your story, would you be
Yeah,
living the way that you're living now? Like, would you make the choices that you're making
yeah,
now if you knew that you were going to
yeah.
be killed in a book?
Well, and Emma Thompson has to kind of
Oh,
decide, like, what's she gonna do? Is she gonna tell the story?
she was
And
so frazzled and
yeah,
like disheveled in this movie. She was delightful.
and
She
Dustin
was great.
Hoffman basically says to Will Ferrell, he says, you have a chance to actually matter and be part of something great. Most
Mm.
people don't have that. And so I don't know. It's really good. I think it's very underrated, and I really like it.
It
So
is really fun. It's just unique.
mhm,
There's not really anything else like it. All
yeah.
those people are in other types of rom-coms that were successful,
Mhm.
but there just isn't anything else
Yeah.
Emma Thompson as a narrator anytime is just a win.
That was
But
brilliant.
it was great. It was. I just love he's walking down the street and everything he's doing is said, or right before he does it, it's said. It's great. It's very clever.
And like I said, worth watching just for when he brings her the flowers. It's so cute. It's my favorite.
She's super aggressive, and
my dream someday is to. And I love when he's like, "Are you participating in any anarchist meetings?" And she's like, "Wouldn't that defeat the point?"
They were complete opposites. That was definitely one of those opposites attracts thing.
Yeah. So, what is the next on your list?
Next on my list is Just Like Heaven, another Reese Witherspoon movie, because I just can't let her go, apparently.
She's the best.
She is the best. And one of the other movies I love her in is Sweet Home Alabama, but it's not, as we discussed, underrated. So this one, however, I feel like I don't really hear anybody talking about it. But Mark Ruffalo is in it, and he's brilliant. He's got some of the best physical comedy that I didn't know he was capable of doing. And I just love the whole concept that he's got his own things that are going on, and he moves into what used to be her apartment, and she like haunts him. Oh, and what's his face?
I love
his John Heder is in it. And he's hysterical.
Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes, he's so funny and unexpected in this film.
Yeah, and I love his friend, Mark Ruffalo's friend. He's like, someday I'm going to need you to help me with the murder.
Move a body, and I don't want you to ask any questions or something like that. He was great. Again with the ensemble, but everybody was really good. I loved her sister.
Yeah, I do too.
Was so great, and I feel like she was maybe married to the director or something.
No, I don't know.
But it was similarly to Stranger Than Fiction, it was another kind of one of those, if you knew that your story was ending and you look back on your life, is that what you would want your story to be?
Yeah.
And I thought it was really sweet. It obviously hit some of the normal opposite attracts things, but then there was a deeper side to it too for both of them, both of their characters, and I just liked where it took them, and it was legitimately hysterical in some of it. I don't know if I can actually pick a favorite, but I love it when the sister sends her kids into the other room.
Oh yeah.
Like, because she thinks that Mark Ruffalo is crazy, and so she's like, "Can you go watch cartoons?" And she goes postal and just completely
yeah. You're right. She is married to the director.
Oh, yay! Yeah. See, I know some things.
She was great in that. Yeah, I love this movie. I saw this. This came out when I was in college, or just after, I guess. No, 2000. It really came out in 2000. It came out before when I was still living in my college apartment. So it was just before I went on my mission. Anyway, I saw it a whole bunch of times.
It's worth rewatching a whole bunch of times.
Yeah.
It's really sweet.
It's
a good balance.
And the garden, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful.
And he's a landscape architect.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have to rewatch it soon after talking about it, because it's been too long since I've seen it last.
Well, my last pick is a movie called Just Right. And this is one that I feel like is definitely underrated, as we're the point of the show. But it's another one with Queen Latifah and Common. And I also love Last Holiday with Queen Latifah, but I did a whole recap of that movie on this podcast, so everyone knows I love that. But anyway, this one is really good. It stars Common as a NBA basketball player, and they managed to finagle it so that he doesn't look like super short compared to all these NBA basketball players. They do a very good job with the basketball scenes, making him look like a realistic NBA basketball player. But anyway, and he ends up getting an injury, and Queen Latifah plays a woman named Leslie Wright, hence the name of the movie. And she is a physical therapist, and so she ends up getting hired to work with him and Paul Patton, who is one of the most beautiful women. I don't understand why she doesn't have like a bigger career than she has, because she is so stunning. She plays her best friend slash cousin. I think they're cousins. Anyway, best friend who ends up also getting kind of involved in the situation. And uh, I just really like it. I think they had great chemistry, and uh, I think their bond really worked and built. And the ending is really good. And so, yeah, and you got some whole bunch of NBA players in here like Dwight Howard and Dwayne Wade and people like that. And so, have you seen this one?
I have, yeah. Excuse me. It's a really good one. She's got several that came out, I feel like, in the same time period, like Last Holiday, and then this one, and what's the other one? What's the one you mentioned?
Oh, there's Last Holiday, and she did like Beauty Shop, and she was in Stranger Than Fiction.
Yes. Well, of course she is, because a lot of it's funny how our movies kind of overlap. Like several of the players in these underrated films show up in other underrated films. But yeah, I mean, I thought this was really sweet. It wasn't sad really, but it hit me hard when he encountered his injury and then kind of lost everything.
The director is, her name is Sana Hamri. I'm probably butchering that pronunciation, but she has a lot of underrated. She did Something New, which is one that I love. I think that's a really good movie. And then also she did Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, which I think the sequel. And I don't know. So she's a good director, and
I just felt like it was really believable, as opposed to some of these.
And it's nice to have a rom-com of somebody who isn't size 2. It's a little more believable.
Well, and it was a rom-com with substance. She was a wholesome, good person, and he was caught up in a life of lots of beauty and fame, and his performance as a basketball player, and then just kind of cutting life down to the basics and what you really need and what really matters. And so
I really like the ending.
Nice.
It's such a good ending. Oh
yeah, I need to rewatch that one too.
Yeah. All right, what's your last pick?
My last pick is Music and Lyrics with Hugh Grant and Drew Barrymore. And I don't even know. You get to a point, or at least I get to a point, and you just really like a movie, and so I just feel like, oh, it's so good. Like, elaborate. Yeah. I can't. It's just so good. I love it. Again, it's got a great ensemble. The music is fantastic. Drew Barrymore is just, again, delightful. She's just so fun. She's such an interesting character. And I mean, she's played quirky people before, of course, but maybe this one resonates with me more. She's like a hypochondriac, and she's super crazy. And Hugh Grant is like a washed up singer from a former duo, a band that was really popular, and his partner split off from him and became super popular, and he's still kind of just reliving the golden years or whatever. Struggling to find value, like
and they do a great job recreating those like videos from the 1980s. Hilarious.
So good. So I love all of it, and Brad Garrett's in it, and he's hilarious. He's the agent. He's Hugh Grant's agent.
I also like Haley Bennett as the pop star that they're writing for. She's very funny.
She's very funny and very believable. Like, just some random starlet just can sing, and then they just let her do whatever she wants to do, and she's just kind of crazy. And Kristen Johnson is great too. Yeah,
she's good.
The sister is hilarious.
Right. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a funny one. It's got great music, and of course we know that Drew Barrymore and Hugh Grant have great chemistry. So
they do. They have great chemistry. They both go through good character arcs that stretch them and change them. And yes, like you said, they've got phenomenal chemistry. So it's just really sweet, and you can sing the music all the time. And
although Drew Barrymore loves to have rom-coms where there's like a whole stadium of people cheering her at the end.
I guess I'd never thought of that before. Now, every time I see a Drew Barrymore movie, I'm going to be like, does this end with her in a stadium?
Or at the very least, a airplane full of people.
Yes, she likes audiences, apparently.
Audiences.
Yes, that's true.
Good.
But
I think these are all really good picks. I think that you'd have a pretty fun time. You have a little marathon of underrated rom-coms, and
for sure.
Before we go, I wanted to share some of the ones mentioned on my Twitter, which,
please.
like I said,
so excited.
Is so many. I can't even believe it. But I'm going to quick go through these. We have American Sweethearts, One Fine Day, Confessions of a Shopaholic, which I don't love that one. But What's Your Number? About Time, a lot of About Times.
I feel like that one, I get it. I feel like there's such a rabid fan base for that one. You mentioned it and everyone's like, have you seen About Time?
Catch and Release.
Oh, yes, I agree.
Aro Film Fan says, I think Michael Showalter's Hello, My Name is Doris is a lovely little film, very sweet film. And that one I wouldn't necessarily describe as a rom-com, but it is definitely a sweet film. Playing It Cool. I haven't seen that one. That was my friend Nostalgia Cast. He said it. Friends with Benefits. That Awkward Moment. This is Mike Culkin says, I get why people don't like this, but I love this movie. 5 to 7. I've never heard of that one.
Man, I'm writing all these down. I'm going to check these out. I'm like, oh, I haven't heard of that.
Forget Paris. Playing by Heart. The Decoy Bride. I've never seen that. What's Up, Doc, which is hilarious. I love that movie.
Like a really quickly growing list.
2020's Emma.
Good call.
And we also got an oldie, the silent movie 7 with Buster Keaton, not the David Fincher movie.
That'd be don't rent that one expecting a rom-com yet.
Like Love, Before We Go, another Before We Go. 200 Cigarettes featuring Kate Hudson and Paul Rudd. I've never heard of that one.
What?
Yeah. A Rainy Day in New York. Let's see here. The Matchmaker, Man Up. Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist.
I like that one.
The Prince and Me. We had a number of people recommend this. Set It Up on Netflix. That one's a pretty good one. I like that. Like A Walk in the Clouds. I love that one. Keanu Reeves is kind of terrible in it, but I still love it.
I don't think I'm allowed to talk about Keanu Reeves. I got in trouble last time. I'll just chuckle and be quiet.
The Broken Hearts Gallery and Always Be My Maybe. Agree there. That's from
Always
Jules
Be
Folk.
My Maybe was so good.
Yeah, I love that movie. I love the ending. He's like, I want to hold your purse for you. Oh, so cute. Greg Switzer, he says Cuban Fury. I don't think it's of it as a rom-com, but it probably qualifies. I've never heard of that one, so that's fun.
Super quick. I will say Keanu Reeves was really good in Always Be My Maybe.
Right?
I will say a positive.
So
he was
funny.
Perfect in that one.
A Nuxie says, While You Were Sleeping. I would never call that underrated, but it's so good.
Maybe to like the new generation.
Maybe. Letters to Juliet. Sarah Buttery says, Ruby Sparks. It gets a little dark, but I adore Ruby Sparks with all my heart. That one's pretty cute. Plus One. We have, which I love.
There are so many.
I know there's so many good ones. Kevin the Critic, he says, Just Right, Fools Rush In, and Forces of Nature. I can't go with him on Fools. On Forces of Nature, but that one. But I do like Fools Rush In. So anyway, there were tons. So let us know if you have any suggestions in the comments. We'd love to hear what you have to say, or on Twitter. And Jennifer, where can people follow you?
I am available on Twitter at PB and Jedi.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So please check that out. And also, you make sure you're following the Hallmarkies podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. If you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. It really helps us out a lot. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group, which is really fun, and we talk tons of rom-coms on the Patreon group. So please support us on the Patreon. All the information is in the description. We also have our merch store, which has tons of fun designs. So please take a look at that. And thanks so much, Jennifer. This was really fun.
It was fun. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. We'll talk to you all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.